the Eureka City Council. Hello, everybody. And we can go ahead and start this meeting with a roll call, please. Can we do roll call?
Yes. Mayor Seaman.
Here.
Councilmember Castellano.
Here.
Councilmember Messner.
Here.
Councilmember Arroyo.
Here.
Councilmember Allison.
Here.
Councilmember Burgell.
Here.
All right. At this time, I would like to invite everybody to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And now we will have, do we have a report out of the closed session, Mr. City Attorney Black?
You're muted, Bob.
Oh.
But it's very far away from you.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that. Madam Mayor, no reportable actions were taken in closed session.
Thank you for making all that effort for the no report out.
He did the exercise.
So we are now to the mayor's announcements. And I would like to start this with a proclamation for somebody that was just played a really important role in the economy of our community. But I am going to let Councilmember Burgell read a proclamation for Laurie Lazio, because she has the longest history here in Eureka and has, I think, probably the strongest relationship with Mr. Lazio.
Thank you, and I'd like to recognize that many of Laurie's family are in the audience. City of Eureka Proclamation. In recognition of Laurie Lazio, October 6th, 2020. Whereas Laurie Lazio was born on July 19th, 1937 in San Francisco and passed away in Eureka on September 13th, 2020. And whereas Laurie Lazio's family were pioneers of Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, and he followed in their footsteps, and as a young boy, he helped unload crab and deliver fresh fish to restaurants. And whereas Laurie Lazio served his country and community as a member of the U.S. Coast Guard aboard the USCGC Avoyelle, and whereas Laurie operated the famed Lazio Seafood Restaurant at the foot of C Street and also partnered with the City of Eureka to build a modern fish processing plant at the foot of Commercial Street, employing thousands of people and processing millions of pounds of seafood over the 50+ years in business. And whereas Laurie was involved in many organizations, including the National Fisheries Institute, California Seafood Institute, Eureka Chamber of Commerce, Humboldt Bay Fisheries Association, Eureka Rotary Club, California Restaurant Association, Humboldt Fish Action Council, Humboldt Visitors and Convention Bureau, Dixieland Jazz Festival, St. Joseph's Hospital Advisory Board, Baywood Golf and Country Club, Ingomar Club, and the Pacific Far East Line Steamship Company. His leadership in organizations enhance the quality of life in the City of Eureka. Now there I, Councilmember Burgell, on behalf of the Eureka City Council and the Mayor, in recognition of Laurie Lazio's many contributions to our community and its citizens, do hereby express our deep appreciation for his dedication to the City of Eureka and extend to his family our sincere condolences upon his passing. Thank you. And I was wondering if maybe a family member wanted to make a
Yeah,
statement.
you just
You don't
turn
have
on
to.
your video. If you want to say something, just raise your hand up and I will be happy to call on you. Anybody want to speak?
I just did want to say two things. I just wanted to just say that my experience with Laurie was just over a 20-year period. It wasn't a long time. And he was always very kind. And he was just very kind to everybody. And I really enjoyed his stories. And he was such a family man. Boy, he bragged about them all the time. And that was really neat as well. So he certainly was a gift to our community. And we could all benefit from learning more about him. A life well lived. Life well lived.
Definitely has left a legacy for sure. Patty, I saw you just turned on your video. Did you want to say something? You're not obligated.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I got bumped out there for a second. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you guys for doing this. I know he would be very honored. He was very proud of his contribution to the city and working with the city. He always stressed the importance of civic engagement and had me at city council meetings, I think, by the time I was 9 years old. So I know that he's up there looking down saying, thank you, really. Certainly, we're very proud of the legacy he's left behind and made him a promise to try to continue it. Anyway, on behalf of the family, I just want to say thank you.
Well, our sincerest condolences from everybody. Thank you for coming tonight and
Thank you.
send this to you in the mail as well.
Thank you very much.
We don't have any other proclamations tonight. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who participated in Good Neighbor Week. We had lots of videos that were shared, and even though we couldn't get together and have block parties, I think neighbors are starting to talk about how they can use the mini grant to take on projects to make their neighborhoods stronger. And that's such an important thing. The city as a whole benefits when our neighborhoods are strong. And thank you to everybody who participated in that. And with that, I will move on to our next item. We have a couple of presentations today. Those are always really fun. And we are going to start with the Youth Council report. Community Development Director Wood, are you going to introduce them? Or is somebody else going to introduce them? I forgot to get who is going to do that today.
That's okay. It'll be Sierra and myself, both of us. So Sierra should be on here.
Okay. Sierra. Well, why don't you go ahead and start, Donna?
Sure. This is Robin Prasker.
Oh, Robin.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Robin, I did that to you before. When people are
That's okay.
not right on their face, it's hard for me to see them.
Yeah. We do have a PowerPoint presentation to share as well, which is another technical component of tonight's presentation. So let me just make sure we have that pulled up.
Are you having trouble?
Yeah, we're trying to make, I don't know that, I think Sierra might be having technical issues. And she's a big part of the presentation. She'll be controlling the PowerPoint and has all the cues.
Oh, okay.
Is there any possibility to move to the next item? We could circle back to us, up to you.
Absolutely, we can do that. We can start with the Chamber of Commerce update, and then we'll come back to the Youth Council report.
Thank you, Mayor.
All
That's
right.
a problem as well because Sierra has my presentation. But that's okay. Let me see. I'm not sure. I just texted her to see if that was okay. But maybe if we could move to the next one and I can maybe see if I can pull this up.
Well, those are our only two presentations before we get on to the regular part of the agenda.
I did resend Sierra the link just in case she was having trouble, but I haven't heard from her.
Mayor, if I might,
Yes, sir.
I don't think there's any problem with moving on and dealing with a couple of regular business items and then
And
still.
coming back. So I'm happy to do that. I just didn't want to break protocol and move on to the regular agenda without it being appropriate. Okay, so the first thing on our agenda is public comment. This is the time for members of the public who wish to speak on matters not on the agenda. Do we have anybody lined up for public comment tonight?
Mayor, no one has requested to speak at tonight's meeting.
All right. So then the next item, we don't have any public hearings, so we will move on to the consent calendar. Did anybody want to pull any items from the consent calendar? I haven't heard of any. All right, seeing none, do I have a motion? Councilmember Messner,
I'll make the motion that we accept the consent calendar as is.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second.
thank you, Councilmember Arroyo. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Castellano,
Aye.
Councilmember Messner,
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo,
Aye.
Councilmember Allison,
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell,
Aye.
unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
All righty. So then we are going to move on. Do we have,
So I have Susan Gillespie just coming into the room who may be.
maybe that might be,
That'll be Sierra, I'd say.
Okay,
I'm sorry about that.
oh,
there
there
she.
she is.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Sierra. So,
I'm going to change my name. So I'm not Susan.
and you are up. We're going to start with the Youth Council report.
Yes, I'm just going to change my name. Are you ready?
Yep.
Oh, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Sierra Jenkins, and I'm the Eureka Youth Council Coordinator. I work very closely with the Community Services Department Program Coordinator, Robin Prasker. We are very excited to share that Youth Council has resumed after we had to take a break over the summer due to the pandemic. So you might have remembered we had 4 members. Tonight we have with us Stella Saba, Christina Smith, and Tristan Green. Our 4th member, Gwendolyn Parsons, unfortunately moved over the summer, but we have 3 remaining members, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Stella, and I'm a senior at Eureka High School and a member of the Eureka City Council, Youth Council.
Hi, my name is Christina Smith, and I am also a senior at Eureka High School, and I am also a member of the Eureka Youth Council.
Hi, I'm Tristan Green. I'm a member of the Eureka Youth Council as well, and I go to Eureka High, and I'm in 11th grade.
Thank you so much, Youth Council. We recently all got to get together and take a visit to 2030 Park, and Youth Council has actually prepared a presentation for you all revolving around 2030 Park. And now Robin is going to tell you a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Sierra. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Very excited to have you council here tonight. And Sierra's going to actually pull up our PowerPoint and she'll be guiding our presentation tonight as we have a few different speakers. But as you may recall, earlier this year, the Eureka Community Services Department was awarded $6.3 million for 2030 Park, and that was from California State Parks. And it was actually very competitive. Only 62 out of 478 applicants were selected, and we were one of them. So the park planning process included a robust community engagement process, which resulted in a new design for the park. And Youth Council has prepared a presentation to update you on the park planning, but also some of the important design principles that were utilized throughout the public input process. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Stella to get started with the presentation.
I'll be talking about crime prevention through environmental design. And as Robin just mentioned, the city engaged in community-based planning, where several meetings were held with local citizens to discuss their concerns and ideas for the park. The high rate of crime was a huge community concern. Neighbors and longtime residents met and shared unsavory behaviors they've witnessed at the park, which have been occurring off and on for around 40 years, and local law enforcement echoed those concerns. So utilizing SEPTED principles is one of the main goals of the 2030 Park renovation project, which will greatly improve the park. Let's explore what that means. The acronym CPTED, pronounced SEPTED, is defined as a multidisciplinary approach for reducing crime through urban and environmental design and management. SEPTED strategies aim to reduce victimization, deter offender decisions that precede criminal acts, and build a sense of community among inhabitants. And here is an overview of the new park design. We'll delve deeper, but the new design includes SEPTED principles. 2030 Park's new design is intended to discourage unsavory uses by encouraging an increase in healthy, appropriate uses. And part of that is designing and locating features that are visible out in the open and not hidden by structures or covered by overgrown landscaping, which comes to visibility and design. These bushes located on the California Street entrance block the park view for law enforcement on patrol, so they will be removed, and that area will be replaced with amenities and native plant landscaping that allow for increased visibility. This corner of the park is also an issue. It is not easily visible from any street view and does not currently provide any appropriate use. So it'll be turned into a picnic and barbecue area, which should encourage positive use, healthy use of the park area, deterring negative use. The location of this storage building also obscures vision and attracts negative use by having its backside secluded up against this neighboring fence. Plus, it's known to attract vandalism for years. It will be removed, opening up visibility to the new picnic and barbecue area, visible from the north side of Pine Street. The current children's play structure is not visible from some areas of the park, which is a safety concern for parents. A new playground will have a fenced area for youth under 5 and will be in the central area of the park to improve visibility for families. Many other park elements will be placed strategically to improve visibility, and new visible access points are located adjacent to high use areas. All the entrances at 2030 Park lack definition, and the uninviting entrances deter people from entering the park. This south entrance to the park features an end sign for the end of Summer Street, and it has a gravel parking lot that is hidden from law enforcement view. The north end is completely open to the street, but it has no defined entrance. There are 4 main entrances, an access entrance, and an entrance by the Jacob Haney baseball field. The upgraded entrances will vary, but will most likely include features such as the signage with park information, lighting, trash and recycling bins, dog stations, native planting, and hydration stations. Lighting and parking are also issues at the park. There are only 2 light poles At night, the large field is very dark and allows for increased criminal activity. So new solar powered lights will be added to increase usable park hours and make visitors feel safer while visiting the park. And currently there's minimal places to park on the north side and a limited gravel parking lot on the south side. The new parking lots will have strategic placement with all cars being able to look toward the park and see its features in a wide view. The lack of parking also deters events where lots of people can attend. So at the park currently there are no restrooms. So a new building for restrooms will be added and located near the main parking lot. People feel safer using the restroom when it's in a highly trafficked area and where it's visible. Plus the park will have a new mural project with Empower Eureka, which is a program designed to give community members volunteer opportunities to take direct action on pressing social issues. An event will be held to create a mural with design and execution help from residents. A project like this helps build a sense of ownership and pride relating to the park and will help strengthen motives to maintain the cleanliness and beauty of the space. And that is where I will end my presentation and pass it on to Christina Smith.
Thank you, Stella. Good evening, Council. My name is Christina Smith, and now we're going to take a look at the brand new accessibility in the future of the 2030 park. Now, you may be wondering why accessibility is crucial to 2030. In the planning process, many accessibility challenges were identified: site parking and access, pathways through the park, and play activities and equipment within the park. Adults with mobility challenges expressed difficulty engaging with their children in the current park play spaces, and seniors with disabilities said walkways are difficult to navigate. As you can see, the curb is very tall, which poses not only a tripping hazard, but also difficulty for those with wheelchairs, as does the gravel, since it is loose and easily able to be tripped upon. Now, Humboldt has one of the highest adverse childhood experience study, ACE scores, in the state. High ACE scores are linked to a variety of challenges, from depression to drug use. Parks with a variety of amenities can, well, not only help with access to exercise, but also help provide the social and emotional stimulation some children may need, but not otherwise have access to. In addition to the youth, our community needs accessibility and inclusivity more than most. 4.1% of children alone in Humboldt County have major disabilities, compared to the 3.1% of children throughout the state. Furthermore, according to the 2015 census, 17% of all Humboldt County residents have disabilities. Even with all of this, currently the nearest fully ADA accessible park is 11 miles away in Arcata. As you can see, with this image, such as the roots and the uneven sidewalk going into the wood chips, there are no ADA approved entrances, and the surfacing is also not currently ADA accessible as well. Here's how our city plans to change that fact with the future of 2030 Park. As you can also see with the vandalism on the play structures and the seating, there's limited outdoor heating, there's benches, no place for children to play, broken or dilapidated basketball hoops, limited sports courts. All right. Now you ask what will be updated for the good of the people. The new 2030 park will be accessible to all who may come and visit through ADA accessible parking, wheelchair accessible pathways, ADA accessible restrooms, a sensory stimulating and accessible playground, seating areas for those of us who need a rest, water fountains that are ADA endorsed for our thirsty community members, sidewalks to walk on or use with a wheelchair, walker, or stroller to and from their car or home, exercise stations that are wheelchair accessible, and even better yet, community events with the new ADA accessible barbecue and seating area that will bring us all together to understand one another and work to create a better Eureka. Additionally, the baseball field will also be renovated. This project will expand access to the field and allow for more opportunities to play baseball with increased recreational opportunities for families in the neighborhood. Whether it be an intellectual, sensory, physical, or social disability, or people from any age background, these are just a few of the features of the new 2030 park that will improve inclusivity, accessibility, and promote health benefits, which my fellow member, Tristan Green, will teach you all about. Take it away, Tristan.
Hi, I'm Tristan Green, and I will be speaking on the health benefits of parks. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, when parks are available to city residents, the amount of people exercising at least 3 times a week goes up by 25%. Stress, physical health, blood pressure, and mental health are all correlated positively to spending time in parks. Parks with shared play spaces can increase socialization, diminish the feeling of isolation, and encourage community camaraderie. Parks are a great place for children and families to connect with nature, have fun, attend events and programs, and overall promote a better quality of life. Currently, 2030 Park has limitations for physical activity and overall park usage. It lacks an adequate amount of exercise and play equipment for the nearby population, and lacks the type of equipment available to accommodate all abilities and ages, including no proper play areas for children under 5. It has barriers for those needing to have ADA accessibility, a lack of modern amenities like no restrooms, no water fountains, no picnic tables, only 2 benches, and no bike racks. A lack of variety and safety, as there is only 1 game court, which is right by the street. Because of these limitations, 2030 Park size is not being used to its potential. Equipment and features for all ages and abilities is not met. A lack of modern amenities hinders the ability to host activities, camps, and community events. Not being able to access water or go to the restroom means going to the park for hours at a time is not really feasible. The lack of variety and safety makes the current features undesirable, and not having a bike rack limits the ease of enjoying the park for bike riders if they have to carry around their bike. When the park does have these things, then many people will be able to go and exercise for much longer and have a more enjoyable experience. There's a high need in this area for these limitations to be improved. There's a senior center and a preschool within walking distance from 2030 Park, and statistics show there's a high number of youth and seniors that live nearby too. High number of households without access to a car, limiting their ability to visit other, more improved parks. There's also a high poverty rate, limiting the financial ability and opportunity for alternate recreational activities. A portion of the housing around the park is densely populated apartments, most with units that do not have green space safe for children to play in. In addition, 62% of California residents live in areas with less than 3 acres of parks per 1,000 residents of open space. But as you can see, the area of 2030 Park is actually less than 1 acre per 1,000 residents. So that's a lot of people without a lot of park or open space. Here's the plan to fix those limitations for 2030 Park. Multi-use athletic courts that support volleyball, pickleball, and tennis. A new fenced basketball court that can allow for roller hockey. ADA multi-use path curving through and around the park to support jogging and walking. Outdoor gym with fixed exercise equipment. A new fenced inclusive playground for ages 0 to 5, and an inclusive playground for ages 5 to 12. As for leisure and activities, they have a picnic and barbecue areas, seating areas that will create comfortable spaces for parents, grandparents, caregivers to rest and watch while children are playing, a rentable concession stand available for events, new drinking fountains with water bottle refill stations, new restrooms, at least 17 new trees, which will improve air quality and create shade. New landscaping with native plants will improve biodiversity and attract pollinators. Landscaping that will collect and filter runoff, pet waste stations, bike racks to encourage biking to the park over driving, and finally, public art opportunities that will enhance the appearance, encouraging residents to feel proud of their park and community.
Great job, Youth Council. Thank you so much. We know you work so very hard on that, and hopefully we all have a better grasp of how amazing and awesome the 2030 Park renovation is going to be. Now back to Eureka City Council, and if you have any questions, Robin will be open to answer those.
Thank you. That was very well done. And it looks like we have lots of questions. So I will start with Councilmember Allison.
No question, just a comment. I just thought that was one of the better professional presentations I've really seen. You should all be very proud of yourselves. I could maybe see some of you working at the city one day because that was really well done. So good job. Just want to let you know.
Robin, did you work with them while they created this?
Yes, Sierra and myself worked very closely with all three members on this PowerPoint and with the new city branding PowerPoint, which we think is beautiful. So props to the city team for having that available to us to use.
Nice. Well, you are helping them develop some serious presentation skills. So good job to you guys too. Councilmember Arroyo.
Great. I want to echo what Austin said, just that it's wonderful to get a deeper dive into the designs and hear about the community input. A lot of times there's so many grants and opportunities that we hear about more at the decision-making level, like accepting the grant or supporting the application, but we don't always get to hear the fun stuff in great detail. So it's really exciting to hear about all of the things that are going to be happening in 2030 Park. And I live close enough to 2030 Park to walk there. It's one of the closest parks to my home. And I noticed there was a plan to have dog waste receptacles. So I wondered if there's more of a dog-friendly approach with this park in the near future. I know that a lot of the folks who I talk to who walk their dogs in the neighborhood would love to go there with their dogs, but it currently says that you cannot have dogs in the park. So I was wondering if staff or the youth council could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. That's a great question. Well, backing up a little bit, our department's philosophy has generally been to have pet waste receptacles available everywhere, just because unfortunately owners do let their dogs doo-doo, and having the bags there makes it more likely to have it removed. Specifically with this park, I am not sure what the plan is for pets. That is something that we can decide as a city team separate from this grant opportunity. So that can absolutely be another discussion if we wanted to look more specifically about modifying that. But with this specific grant project, there wasn't really any dog elements per se.
Okay, yeah, that's something I'd be interested to address. I know I speak to a lot of folks about dog policies around parks, and I know there's some pros and cons to having dogs in parks, but that would be something I'd be interested to come back to at another time.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then my other question was about, I know the name and history of the park isn't, people don't always know why it's called 2030 Park. Is there any plan to include interpretive signage or anything explaining the history of the park and why it has the name that it has?
We actually have discussed that in the past. We've heard that before. So we'll definitely be sure to save that in our notes. And when we get to the formal design process, I think that's absolutely something we can look into. That would be a pretty easy way to celebrate the park's history as part of this project. So I say, yes, we will be looking into it.
Excellent. And I know Councilmember Messner has something, but not, Councilmember Arroyo, now that you mentioned it, would you like to give a very brief description of where the name 2030 Park came from?
Sorry, your sound did a weird
did
thing.
it go in?
Are you asking me to tell it about the history of 2030 Park?
A very brief description of it, or
I remember it had something to do with young people in the community helping to create it and maintain it, but that's all I recall. So I also could stand to be educated about the history of 2030 Park.
If I remember correctly, I think it had to do with kids that were too young to join a service club. So they took this on as a project that was self-motivated, and they were 20 and 30-year-olds. That was how I understood it. So yeah, we guess we can all stand.
I bet our staff know.
Susan is correct. It was pretty much the beginning of Rotaract. That was a group of young kids that wanted to get together, and for me, they're young kids, excuse me, but they got together and put together funding for the park to make improvements and also help to maintain it.
Which is very cool. That's why I thought it was really neat that was that the youth council got to report on it again. There's just a history of youth being involved in that park, and it's so important because it's so central in the community and a neighborhood that really needs it. Their youth do. So, Councilmember Messner.
Thank you. Yeah, I would be very interested in seeing like a plaque or something. I believe there used to be one. So it would be nice to have something up there that explains, and I think history is always helpful for the current public. So thank you very much. Great job. And I'm very excited about this. This is a park that is indeed, it is needed, quite needed in this area. And I've been to quite a few meetings, public meetings about it. And it's
really exciting to see this moving forward. And I had two questions. One is what the timeline looks like for this particular, like what the timeline is going to be at this time, like when the groundbreaking will be, and when you anticipate it being completed. So I don't know if anyone has that answer.
It's a wonderful question. So we are currently in the process of building the documents to be able to go out to bid to hire a contractor. So we do hope to have the project well underway next year. The grant has provided an extension due to COVID, so we do have more time if necessary, but we are still hoping to be able to be seeing some breaking ground next year.
Awesome, great, thank you, appreciate that. I think it's important, you know, people want to know what's going to be happening, and so I appreciate also you moving forward as quickly as possible, and not letting too many things stand in the way. So the other question is, are you going to have this on the website somewhere so that people can look at it and be excited about what's going to happen?
Yeah.
This presentation?
This presentation. Yeah, I think that we could probably connect with Pam and talk about making this a presentation, a standalone presentation. Also, though, currently the city website under the Community Services Department has a park improvement page, and 2030 has a page on there that has all of the grant info, like the site map we were showing. So if anybody wants to go see that design, it is on the city website currently. But I love the idea of turning this presentation into its own standalone video as well. So we'll look into that.
Yeah, it'd be great. And also just, I mean, even if you can snip it out, you know, with our youth council doing it, if there's like a link that people could just click on. It's easy to do out of a video, and this is a video that was done. So I would imagine it could be fairly easy, but yeah. Thank you, appreciate it.
Councilmember Burgell.
I just kind of wanted to echo what everybody has said. That was a really professional, interesting presentation. So thank you very much. I grew up playing baseball at 2030 Park every Sunday after church. And so it's really nice to see that being rejuvenated again. And we've heard a lot at our council meetings from the neighbors about how, you know, it certainly needed some work. I was curious, you know, when you're talking about the kids' playground, the 0 to 5, I think it was, is that going to be an area that is going to be, I just don't even want to bring this up, but I'm going to, locked? Or is it just going to be available to the public at all times? I know we've had some real good success having Claire Mayberry be locked to the public at certain times for the kids. I'm wondering if that's a consideration at all.
You know, we are not in the formal design process yet, so we haven't gotten that far. So if it's okay with you, we'll just put that down in our notes and we could follow up when we get closer to that decision.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks so much, Robin.
Thank you, Kim.
And thanks, guys. You did a great job tonight.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Castellano.
Just real briefly, it's always nice to see you, Christina, Stella, and Tristan. So thanks for being here, and looking forward to more. And thank you, Sierra and Robin, for your leadership and, you know, for supporting the teen council.
That was a very nice way to end it. We all love the teen council, and we're very glad that we have got a chance to hear the presentation today and to catch up with you guys and see all your faces, and hope you're doing well in your very weird school year. So we will now move on to the next presentation, unless anybody had any final words We're good. Okay, we're going to move on to the Eureka Chamber, Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce with Ms. Donna Wright.
Thank you, Mayor Seaman. My name is Donna Wright and I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to present to the Council, Interim City Manager and City staff. It's great to share with you the community highlights of who we are at the Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce and what we've been doing in 2020. It's been a very busy year and we've taken our responsibility very seriously to support not only our members, but our local businesses and community. If I could have Sierra now, and she's a very busy girl tonight, and I'm absolutely thrilled she's one of our staff and supporters. If I could have you start the presentation. The Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce is a membership organisation. We're fully funded by our members for our members. First of all, I'd like to share our mission statement. The Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce is an organisation of members that promotes and advocates for trade, commerce, jobs and tourism. Everything we do at the Chamber is done with a look back to ensure each task, each performance reflects our mission statement. The Chamber consists of our 18-member Board of Directors. These members of the Eureka Chamber Board of Directors are leaders from all areas of the local business spectrum. Directors are elected by our membership to serve a 3-year term of office. This dynamic group provides policy guidance, evaluates Chamber programs and activities, and directly represents the interests of the North Coast business community. The board recently polled our business members on the proposed city tax measure and reported its finding to the city, providing crucial voices from the area businesses. These board are volunteers and we greatly appreciate their service. We also have active committees of business and education. The committee evaluates education and training issues of interest to the business community. They work in partnership with the Humboldt State University, College of the Redwoods, the Humboldt County Office of Education, and Eureka City Schools. Currently, the Business and Education Committee is assisting the Humboldt County Office of Education on its virtual learning project, which seeks community volunteers to enhance online learning. Our Business and Industry Committee reviews and evaluates and recommends action on issues that concerns of interest to the Chamber members. Its members work with local governments and agencies to improve conditions with local regulatory issues. The Business and Industry Committee is examining local shipping logistics to the potential for shared resources between local and out-of-county shippers. The dramatic impact to local businesses with the COVID business shutdown and reconfiguration have taken the forefront in Business and Industry Committee. The committee has recently supported the Humboldt Bay Harbour District projects and the pre-permitting process and supporting renewable energy projects. Furthering the committee's dedication to supporting renewable energy, we've committed to supporting a pathway to renewable energy. To this, I spoke at the recent HSU Schatz Institute webinar, an energy production and delivery of economic development, exploring the feasibility of offshore wind energy for the California North Coast. Our Government Affairs Committee develops and maintains the Chamber legislative agenda, which works to promote economic development through legislative advocacy. The committee reviews and evaluates legislation which could impact members of the business community and communicates public and member forums for candidates for the local elections. The Government Affairs Committee has been working diligently on issues of panhandling in Eureka and the 2021 minimum wage increase during the COVID business downturn. The committee has supported the Humboldt Waste Management Authority for the temporary closure of the CRV buyback. Through this committee, we recently polled our members and asked candidates to participate in answering 3 questions via video, and 3 written answers to questions that are most important to our members and business community. Both the video and written answers can be seen on our Facebook and Instagram pages and our website at www.eurekachamber.com. If I could make a personal ask during this time, and that is for people to check this out, your voice does matter. Please vote. We have opportunities that you can look at that. Check out our Facebook page today. So that's my personal plea. Our organisation committee. This committee provides direction and support to membership development and to the Chamber operations. The organisation committee oversees the Chamber ambassadors and Chamber mixers. The organisation committee has been providing support and direction to the Chamber as many of the traditional Chamber events have transitioned to online. Our ambassador committee. Our Chamber ambassadors are a group of dedicated volunteers in the community service who have made a commitment to use their times and effort towards developing and maintaining a feeling of goodwill and understanding between the Chamber, businesses, government, and our community at large. The ambassadors have organised and presented our virtual Chamber mixes featuring special guest speakers on current relevant business issues, including Sheriff Honsel, Dr. Roberta Luskin-Hawke, CEO of the St. Joseph Hospital, Dr. Chris Hartley, Superintendent of the Humboldt County Office of Education, Linda Wise, of the General Manager of Ecology, and next Thursday, Kelly Sanders of the Humboldt Office of Elections. We've chosen these speakers to be poignant at times that have been important during the time of COVID. I'd also like to talk about our talented staff. Our Chamber's busy staff has dedicated 2020 to responding to the COVID-19 crisis. We're focused on advocacy and promotion of area business, and it's been very important to update our business community on the communications that are needed for them to the Chamber website. This was updated with business COVID-19 resources. A special edition membership magazine was issued in the very first weeks of the COVID-19 outbreak, and the resources were published and targeted membership emails providing timely business COVID-19 updates, and resources were sent to over 1,300 local businesses. We also reached out personally to our members via phone and offered any and all support and kept information flowing. We use this through our social media pages, our websites, newsletters, direct mailing, and of course by phoning directly. The Chamber produced informational videos in conjunction with the County Office of, in conjunction with the OES and the JIC. We were first, while they were collecting their information and pulling their staff together, we stepped up to support them. We were offering best practices for safe reopening, reinforcing the message to wear a mask and supporting local. Our marketing campaigns on social media platforms have over 40,000 views per month, capturing a large audience, driving business to our members' phones, websites, social media, and front doors. We saw during this time that our businesses really needed that support. When they weren't sure how to promote themselves, we stepped up and asked them how we could do that and how we could help. Recent popular campaigns included our Family and Faces Behind the Business and Business of the Day. We also do our new member spotlight. This was our inspiration to our 2020 and 2021 annual membership magazine, which will be published next week. We also have some exciting news. We're launching Art Biz next week, which is formed by a committee of Linda Wise, Rachel Schluter, and Nancy Fleming, along with our staff. We saw that our local artists had no outlet to be able to promote their art, to be able to have Arts Alive, their open houses. So we've launched an online auction sales using one of our local members. So that will be launched next week. So please come and have a look at our social media pages and our websites and support our local artists. For every dollar you spend in our community, that revolves 3 times, and our artist community is such a strong part of our community. The Chamber also partnered with Lost Coast Outpost on the Redwood Heroes promotion, KIEM3 for Redwood Strong, and KAEF for the graduation messages of support. We created a new Facebook page, Humboldt General Store, which was started to increase social media promotion throughout the county so that our community could come back and see and be enthused by what we had here locally, because we don't have one directory. And we encourage everybody out there to go in and look up the group Humboldt General Store and share your experience at local stores and support and shop local. During this time of COVID, there can be nothing more important to the resilience of our community if we all get behind, and I'm having a soapbox moment now, if we could all get behind our local businesses. These are our friends, families, and the faces behind our business. They are the structure of our community. And I would implore and ask you all, before you hit that button for the big box stores or online outside of our community shopping, please think of our local businesses. We can find things here. We can find everything here. So that's my personal plea to our community. We also collaborated with the City of Eureka on a business mailing to provide Eureka businesses with the opportunity to find out how to become part of the Chamber, how to support local, and we appreciate that collaboration that the city did with that this year. Under my direction, we've also committed our efforts to supporting the economic recovery and resilience, working closely with the COVID Economic Recovery Consortium, which consists of somewhere between 25 and sometimes 40 local business leaders, community groups, the City of Eureka, Humboldt County Office of Emergency Services, business leaders and other business organisations, including Main Streets. And we're very proud to be able to put forward our efforts, all of our staff and our board and committees, to be able to support our local community, to provide opportunities during those meetings on Monday, Wednesday and Fridays. I also facilitated at a recent Humboldt County Prosperity Network panel where 5 speakers from across the nation shared their best practice and resilience to over 100 participants. Now more than ever, we understand the value of the Chamber to our community. As we've been the catalyst for business growth, the convener of leaders and influencers in our community, and a champion for our community. We've taken our mission very seriously, and in focusing on these three significant tasks, it is the Chamber's duty to act as an advocate for local businesses at a state, federal and local level. During these times of uncertainty, the Chamber has pivoted to the urgent needs of our community. We have chosen to be fearless and take on projects that have not been traditionally in the wheelhouse of what the Chamber has done, and will put the full force of our resources behind them to support our members, our businesses and local community. We've positioned ourselves to be a true leader in supporting the business community. We live here, we're part of it, we take it personally. And we've moved to our new premises at 612 G Street. We've created Business HQ and worked with our board to create succinct policies and procedures to be able to move faster in times such as these. And we are a true 3C Chamber, a catalyst for business growth, a convener of leaders and influencers, and a champion for our local community. I'd love, most of you know out there, if I can make something with 10 words instead of 1, I'll probably do it. So I'd love to share more. However, with the respect of time, if anybody is interested, in joining the chamber, learning more about what the chamber does, how you can be involved, how you can support our local community. We are a non-profit. We are our members working for our members. Please reach out to us at the chamber on 442-3738, our Chamber of Commerce website, eurekachamber.com, or call in or not calling, sorry, we're closed to the public, or visit our social media platforms. I want to thank you for your time, and sorry that I had so much to share. There's my Linda.
No need to be sorry. That was very well done. Does anybody have any questions for Donna? Councilmember Arroyo?
Could you reiterate where we could find out, see the information or find out more about the program where you're helping businesses figure out how to do online marketing of their services?
What we're doing, this is very exciting, and I could get exaggerated, so cut me off. Right now, we have a marketing person, and Sierra, who's doing the presentation or the slideshows here with us tonight, has pivoted from being our Flex Workspace and incubator coordinator to support our businesses. So we have reached out to every one of our businesses to share their story, whether that is family and faces behind the businesses, whether it is business of the day. Please reach out to us so that we can share your story so that people can learn more about you. Or if you're posting on social media, tag us into that. We can share that into our stories or in one of our campaigns of supporting local. This has been so important, and it's something that makes me I've fallen in love with our community, that they want to share what they're doing out there. And using our platform of over 40,000 views a month over our social media platforms, we've been able to drive business to our local businesses. So if you tag us in your post, you send something to Eureka Chamber, to either myself or Sierra, go onto our website. We're happy to share that. But I'm going to let something out. We've applied for a grant to be able to possibly do hands-on training with our local members to support them in their e-commerce confusion. This is one area, and that's probably the only word I could use. This is one area that I'm super passionate about. Money that we had put into reserves to be able to launch that ourselves this year has had to pay our rent and our staff. We've applied for a grant. We should know this week. If not, hell and high water, we're going to do something to assist our businesses. But right now, we're just doing that before we can put on training programs.
Councilmember Messner?
Yes, thank you, Donna. I really appreciate you and the chamber and all that you guys do, and love seeing all of the posts that you have made to businesses. It's been really exciting to see that, and just even reminders that, oh, this business is open, this restaurant's open. I've seen those posts consistently throughout the last few months, and it's been really good, I think, for the community to see that and also route people to businesses. So thank you for all that hard work in making sure that they're having a face, you know, in the public, even if they don't have their own Facebook pages or Instagram, maybe they don't have all of that, but you've done a good job of being that face for them in social media. So I appreciate all that hard work. Thank you very much. You guys make a difference in our community.
Apart from it being our job to support, promote, and advocate for our business, I can speak for our board, our committees, and our staff. It has become a passion project.
Well, I appreciate it.
We
you guys do a great job.
We are Eureka.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Councilmember Castellano.
It's always nice to see you, Donna, and hear about your work with the chamber. I've loved the Family and Faces campaign. It was really neat to kind of get to know kind of our local business owners more through that. So I appreciate that. And also I just appreciate how you really show up in the community at all these meetings and, you know, advocacy opportunities. So, you know, thank you to the chamber's work and also, you know, to your hard work too. And it's, yeah.
Thank you. We created, and I'd like to speak to the Family and Faces. We are passionate as a group to support our businesses. And that was something that we created to make our businesses real. Behind every business, there is a family. There is our friends, our relatives. We saw the Lazios here tonight. Laurie was a past president of ours. We honored him in our own way. And there is a family behind every business. And if we support local, we shop local, we think local, we're going to come through this strongly, and we are resilient. We're Eureka.
All right, Councilmember Burgell.
I just so appreciate your passion, and I felt compelled to say that. It's contagious, so keep sharing that. Thanks for all your work.
Even if people can't understand me. I think people are getting used to me now.
So before we leave too, I just want to add that during COVID, when businesses have really needed a champion, you have been loud and just a real advocate, which has been a great thing for them, because at a time when people want to turn inward, you absolutely did not. You were as out as you could be.
You know, we are loud and we're proud, and everything that we've worked towards the last 3 years, it helped during this time. But I will say to our community and our businesses, I have felt the struggle, and Susan, you've been there through that. We go through our ups and downs, and I can say that, you know, there's times that we've been an absolute champion for our businesses, and there's been a time that our businesses have been a champion for our staff and me personally. So a big thank you to everybody. You know, we're all in this together.
That is a nice way to end this presentation. Thank you very much for all you do and for your presentation. And we will see you shortly, because you are everywhere. All right. So we will now move on to our next item, and we get to skip now to item C1. So Director Gerving, I believe you get to remind us what this one's about, because we're revisiting it.
We are. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. We are here for the second reading this evening of Bill number 985CS, which is an ordinance that would amend Chapter 150 of the Eureka Municipal Code. And just very briefly recapping that, there are changes to cost recovery mechanisms for abatement actions, as well as misdemeanor citation authority for code enforcement officers to help take some of that burden off the police department. So that's it very briefly. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Otherwise, you have staff's recommendation there.
Thank you very much. Did anybody have any questions this time? Anything come up since the last meeting? All right. Did we have any public comment on this? Assistant City Manager Powell.
No, Mayor, we did not have a request from the public to speak on this item.
All right. Then I will bring it back. Councilmember Castellano.
I'd like to make a motion to waive reading, read by title only, and adopt Bill number 985-CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka amending Chapter 150, Sections 150.1540 through 150.190, building regulations, unsafe structures, abatement of nuisances of the Eureka Municipal Code.
All right. Do I have a second? Councilmember Burgell. Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castellano,
Aye.
Councilmember Messner,
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo,
Aye.
Councilmember Allison,
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell,
I see her saying aye, but her mute is on.
okay. Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
All right, so we are going to move on to item D1, which is a COVID-19 updates, solid waste and CRV buyback. And this is going to be introduced, I believe, by Community Services Director Wood.
Yes.
All right.
Donna Wood.
Is it just me or is that very echoey?
Steve.
Very echoey. Can you hear us, Donna?
I can hear you, yes. Are we
Okay,
good
oh,
to go forward?
you sound good
Okay.
now.
All
You're
right.
good now.
Okay, I'll start back over. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Donna Wood, Interim Community Services Director. We understand that Council has been getting questions about waste management and CRV redemption, especially during the COVID-19 restrictions. All of our local waste managers work closely together, and we've brought them here to discuss the topic and keep you informed and in the loop. Additionally, staff have prepared a letter for you to consider signing. And if after this presentation you're interested in amending it, we welcome this.
I can't even see myself in there.
See,
The HWMA board took a similar action with a letter, which you will hear more about during this presentation. And I'd like to move on to invite Jill Duffy, Executive Director of Humboldt Waste Management Authority. Welcome, Jill.
Oh, and you're muted, Jill, so.
There we are, trying to make sure that we stay on top of these things. We really appreciate this opportunity to address council and certainly members of the public who are watching in. I am Jill Duffy. I'm the Executive Director of Humboldt Waste Management Authority. And we also have
Linda Wise, General Manager of Ecology, Humboldt County. We'll be giving you a presentation tonight that's kind of longish. So, and Jill's going to be starting and then I'll follow up at the end. So hit it, Jill.
Great, thank you. We will make sure that your staff receives a complete copy of this presentation once it's completed. If you'll give me one moment to share my screen with you all. So this evening, we're going to be providing an overview to council, pertaining primarily to solid waste. And we're going to give a short history in terms of solid waste management on the North Coast, the regulatory framework that we operate within, curbside collection, which is provided by Ecology of Humboldt, as well as activities at our transfer station, the transportation and disposal. We will also be discussing recycling activities and talking about some of the general diversion programs that are operated at the transfer station and the Eureka Recycling Center drop-off, CRV redemption service, which I know is a big topic, in addition to the curbside recycling and processing. We do have a lot of ground to cover, so we are asking that questions be held to the end of the presentation. For many decades, residents would haul their trash to designated community locations where they would be dumped into a pile, and once a year the county would burn the waste in order to reduce the accumulated piles. These sites were oftentimes located along forest ridges or alongside rivers, allowing the residual debris to be pushed over ravines or to allow the high water flows during the winter to remove the debris. And locally, there were a handful of waste haulers, City Garbage of Eureka, Arcata Garbage, Eel River Disposal, and Humboldt Sanitation, who did perform trash hauling services to some of these open air burn locations for businesses and residents. But most Humboldt County residents would either self-haul the materials to these locations or they would burn their garbage in their backyard. And it wasn't until 18 years ago in 2002 that the state banned backyard burning of garbage. And I do want to note that it's worth noting that the composition of materials that were disposed in these early years was really different in the sense that there was far less plastic or processed products as compared to today's waste streams. The Cummins Road landfill was originally owned by Eureka City Garbage, and became a permitted municipal landfill in 1972. The site began its operation in 1933 as an open air burn site, and that trash was then pushed off the side casts of either side of the ridge. In 1975, Eureka City Garbage sold the landfill to NorCal Waste Systems, and NorCal Waste Systems is now known as Ecology today. The landfill continued receiving waste from primarily the city of Eureka and from portions of the county of Humboldt. And it was with the closure of the Arcata dump, it was owned by the county of Humboldt in 1977, and the closure of the Table Bluff landfill in 1978, that the cities and counties began directing their material to the privately owned Cummins Road landfill. By 1984, the Cummins Road landfill was the only municipal solid waste site remaining open in Humboldt County. Now, it's worth kind of a little back history here in that the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board issued a number of waste discharge report orders, corrective actions, and cleanup and abatement orders related to the landfill, which ultimately resulted in the closure of the landfill as a corrective action in order to minimize water quality impacts. The landfill received trash until 2000, when Humboldt Waste Management Authority was formed. They purchased the Hawthorne Street Transfer Station and the Cummins Road landfill from NorCal Waste Systems. HWMA has since performed necessary studies and secured permits for landfill construction closure. The construction closure was completed and certified in 2017, and HWMA is now responsible for 30 years of post-closure monitoring and compliance with those environmental permits. Linda and I oftentimes encounter questions from people within the community, and they're curious, does HWMA drive the regulations? Is it Ecology that's driving the regulations? And in actuality, it's the cities and the counties. Y'all are empowered through the California Constitution, and that's what grants you the powers to make and enforce local police, sanitary, and other ordinances. And the Public Resource Code establishes the authority so that cities and counties can regulate the handling of solid waste. And you may enter into agreements with franchise haulers for the provision of waste handling services. This particular section, the public resource section 40,000, or I think, I'm sorry, yeah, that's all right, requires government agencies to meet state mandated targets, and failure to meet the requirements can result in fines or regulations levied against public agencies from CalRecycle. This is oftentimes referred to as AB 939, which is in reference to the original legislation that established the early mandated diversion goals and the subsequent requirements. Now, periodically, there's an interest by governmental entities such as cities and the county, fire departments, and water districts to share resources and combine their powers. And this would include things such as solid waste and transportation to enable those member agencies to consolidate administrative services, which will result in increased efficiencies and services. Some local examples of these include the Humboldt Transit Authority, Humboldt County Association of Governments, the Humboldt Del Norte Hazardous Materials Response Authority, North Coast EMS, as well as the Redwood Coast Energy Authority and REDEC. HWMA is a limited regional joint powers authority. It does not include the cities of Trinidad or Fortuna. And unless specifically granted by one of our member agencies, we only have control over solid waste. HWMA was initially formed to help manage the costs that were associated with solid waste by being able to combine all of the member agencies' solid waste tonnage, and then being able to leverage for the purposes of securing competitive long-term transportation and disposal contracts, as well as to operate the transfer station and then be responsible for the construction closure and post-closure monitoring of the Cummins Road landfill. This has enabled uniform and stable solid waste disposal rates for all of our member agencies. And these are some of the services that we're responsible for, just to kind of recount that piece. So to kind of give you a different recap Cities and counties are responsible for implementing the state regulations, establishing ordinances and resolutions, in addition to contracting with franchise waste haulers, whereas HWMA is responsible for securing the solid waste disposal for our member agencies. We manage the landfill closure, and we plan for HWMA's programs and diversion services. Additionally, each city and county has a representative who participates on the AB 939 Solid Waste Local Task Force. This is the group which is tasked with the coordinated planning of materials management activities and advising local jurisdictions to identify new and ongoing solid waste management issues of countywide or regional concern. And I'm going to turn it over to Linda now. Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, let's go to the next slide. We do have contracts with the city of Arcata. The city of Arcata and a bunch of other cities here in our area, but the one with the city of Eureka is what we're contracted to do is curbside collection of trash and recycling through our agreement. We've also entered into the agreement to do some green waste collection and bulky item pickup, and provide these services to the residential and commercial customers within the city limits. Trash is then collected and delivered to HWMA Hawthorne Street Transfer Station. We have in our agreement with the city of Eureka, it's a flow controlled agreement where they tell us where the material, any material that we collect at the curbside goes. In the case of the solid waste, it goes to the Hawthorne Street Transfer Station. Right now, according to the recycling agreement, it's going over here to the Samoa Recycling and Processing Facility. And this is done under the agreement with the HWMA to process this material, and which I'll talk more about in a little bit later. Next.
Whereas,
I'm going to need you.
You're going to need me.
I need to tell you guys. I have to tell Jill to say next because I don't have control over the PowerPoint. There you go.
So Humboldt Waste Management Authority's transfer station, we employ 36 and a half employees to staff the transfer station, the recycling center, the hazardous waste facility, in addition to the Cummins Road landfill. The transfer station and the Eureka Recycling Center is open 7 days a week. We handle a little over 75,000 tons annually for the loading, transportation, and disposal of garbage to the Dry Creek landfill, which is located in White City, Oregon. This is an average of approximately 12 semi-truck trailers per day, which are making a 260-mile round trip. The diversion programs that have been developed and implemented have done so in concert with our member agencies, and we secure grants or we fund the collection on the solid waste fee in order to serve our community needs. Some examples of these include appliances, carpet, electronic waste, green waste, hazardous waste, lights, mattresses, tires, medical sharps, televisions, and computer screens for recycling. And we also provide the collection or funding of activities such as sharps, the pharmaceutical, and used oil collection. Our waste disposal fees have remained unchanged for the last 5 years as we continue to identify internal efficiencies and competitively manage our contracts. And this year, we further reduced our carpet disposal costs from $90 a ton to $10 a ton. We've reduced e-waste disposal to free, and asbestos disposal costs to our customers have also been reduced. In terms of the recycling services that are provided, HWMA provides for Eureka recycling drop-off, as well as CRV redemption services. And of course, we'll be updating some more on that. And Linda, I don't think she's on, so I'll go ahead and speak for her. Ecology is performing the curbside collection of recyclables under the agreement with HWMA. And of course, this recyclable material is then processed at the Samoa Resource Recovery Center. The Eureka Recycling Center offers drop-off services for appliances, electronic waste, television, and computer screens and other recyclables. I do want to note that when the transfer station was purchased from NorCal Waste Solutions, part of the agreement was that we would operate drop-off services for residents in the city of Eureka. And until this past year, Eureka Recycling Center also provided CRV buyback or redemption services. And I will address this further momentarily. The recycling center processes and markets over 4,000 tons annually of recyclable material, including about 3,000 tons of non-CRV materials. This would be things such as cardboard and previously some paper and whatnot, and about 1,000 tons annually of CRV beverage containers. Additionally, we take over 250 tons of electronic waste. The original intent of the state's CRV redemption program, of course, was to incentivize recycling by establishing a fee for beverage containers. The 5 or 10 cents per container that customers have paid to the store does not go to your local recycling center. The collected monies support the state's CalRecycle programs. Consumers purchase a beverage, and originally it was intended that they could conveniently redeem the empty container at the store when they next visited. And this is how the program functioned for many years. But as the commodities market values increased, independent recycling redemption centers also increased. The obligated retailers welcomed those redemption centers because they relieved the store of the obligation to redeem the containers, to staff, to bail, and then to ship the used containers to market. It's worth noting that in the early years of the program, which was 1986, the primary beverage container type was primarily aluminum or glass. And with the exception of things such as Evian or the Pellegrino water, people didn't purchase water off the shelf. And certainly water in 16-ounce plastic containers didn't exist. And today there's been a development and a proliferation of beverage types that are available to consumers. And increasingly, those beverages are being sold in plastic containers. Here locally, CalRecycle is exempted over 78% of the convenience zone obligated retailers from having to provide CRV buyback services or pay the $100 per day fine for not providing the redemption service to customers. The remaining zones have been served for a number of years by either HWMA, Ecology at Fortuna and Redway, as well as Humboldt Sanitation's recycling redemption centers. It's worth noting that to recoup the CRV payout, when a customer comes in and gives us a container and we give them back their nickel or a dime, we recoup that CRV payout as well as our labor, equipment, and overhead and freight to market cost when we sell that collected material. The arrangement worked really well for the recycling industry when the commodity market was strong. With the pandemic and statewide shelter-in-place order, HWMA, Humboldt Sanitation, and Ecology each took steps in order to prioritize and to ensure the resiliency and continuity of our operations as it pertained to solid waste. So we needed to make sure that garbage collection continued and we were able to handle all of the material at the transfer stations, including loading and transportation to the landfill so that it remained uninterrupted. And while commercial generation of trash significantly decreased, there was a corresponding increase of self-hauled material of residential origin at HWMA's transfer station, and traffic was frequently backing up onto Hawthorne Street as Humboldt residents cleaned their closets and garages and storage units from probably early March until late August. HWMA was concerned about reopening the Eureka Recycling Center and the CRV buyback and the resultant additional traffic and material volume that we would see come in. And as a certified redemption center, we are required to operate consistent with CalRecycle regulations, or we are subject to violations. We have very little operational latitude or flexibility. So We made inquiries beginning last spring with CalRecycle to discuss whether we could host a temporary pop-up of an off-site collection operation under our existing certifications in an effort to manage the traffic volume that we anticipated would be coming in, or if we could secure another operator who could perform off-site CRV collection services, or even inquired whether we could temporarily accept customers on an appointment basis. The answers to the pop-up and the appointments were no. For an off-site operation, CalRecycle required that we would have to go through the full certification process, and that could take up to 90 days after the application submittal. So meanwhile, we developed a reopening plan that would align with the governor's roadmap to recovery. We made a series of site modifications as well as employee and customer protection measures which were implemented to ensure social distancing and minimizing direct contact with customers or material. The Eureka Recycling Center resumed activities on August 11th, and the CRV buyback remains suspended. The governor's CRV executive order expired on August 21st. CalRecycle contacted each certified redemption center stating that we either had to immediately open, submit notice of decertification, or face fines for non-compliance. Ecology's Fortuna and Redway sites submitted their notices of decertification on August 28th, and they were followed shortly thereafter by Humboldt Sanitation in McKinleyville. HWMA resumed CRV buyback on September 1st for a period of 3 days before we had to shut down due to overwhelming traffic congestion, impacting local roadways, Highway 101, area businesses, and impeding safety and emergency response access. This traffic congestion also impacted the ability of our franchise haulers and other HWMA customers dropping off trash, green waste, and other recyclable materials, non-CRV. These customers were forced to wait in the same line as those who were waiting for CRV redemption, although our staff did work to identify and reroute those customers around the traffic line. In consultation with the City of Eureka's Public Works Department, we resuspended CRV buyback due to the safety concerns and immediately scheduled a meeting with city and county staff in order to discuss how to mitigate impacts and identify other potential options. I do want to note, because I'm sure there's a number of people who are watching the presentation, that I really want to acknowledge and thank all the customers that did come through because they were absolutely amazing. Most people had their materials pre-sorted, so once they got in, they were able to get their materials offloaded in a pretty timely manner. They were wearing face coverings, they practiced social distancing, and a number of customers commented on the facility layout changes that we had made. And probably more importantly, a lot of these people were waiting in their cars for 2 to 3 hours and sometimes a little bit longer than that. So the Eureka Recycling Center doesn't have the physical capacity to manage CRV buyback for the entire county. And with the reopening experience in hand, HWMA again requested CalRecycle to allow CRV by appointment in an effort to temporarily manage inbound customers and material. At the September HWMA Board of Directors meeting, they discussed this issue and they directed staff that if CalRecycle did not permit appointments, that HWMA was to submit notice of decertification so that we were not issued violations. CalRecycle informed HWMA that appointments are not permissible, and we submitted our notice of decertification. There are continued efforts to establish some form of CRV buyback, and HWMA is continuing to work with the state and other representatives to identify potential remedies on this matter. And the issue, quite frankly, is a lot larger than Humboldt, and it's the responsibility of CalRecycle to proactively address the consumer's ability to redeem their containers. With obligated retailers opting out of the CRV redemption services and over 50% of the recycling centers having closed statewide over the last 5 years because they are operating at a loss, CalRecycle's failure to act has left consumers with fewer and fewer CRV redemption options. So the question is, why are CRV redemption centers closing? In 2010, there were 10 redemption recycling centers operating in Humboldt, and this was primarily around the Eureka area. By early 2020, there were only 5 remaining at the beginning of this year. And as we have entered into October, this has further been reduced to the one location, which is New River, which is located in Willow Creek. I believe this is a very small operation. I've tried calling a few times and haven't been able to get through, and this is well before a lot of these activities occurred. Numerous recycling centers have tried to hang on, hoping that recycling scrap values would rebound, but prices are continuing to decline, and they are currently at some of the lowest that they have been. In conversations with out-of-county CRV centers, many are also approaching the edge of closure. They've been able to stave off closing in part because they may have lower overhead than centers that are co-located with transfer stations such as the Ecology site and Humboldt Sanitation and HWMA, or they are located closer to scrap markets, so they're able to avoid the higher freight to market costs that we incur. Additional factors include the state payments to processors. Those have actually been reduced over a number of years, and there has been a continued depression of the scrap value of aluminum and plastic, and a rise in operational costs that have resulted from state requirements such as the minimum wage increases. And the recycling community has tried for years in order to have CalRecycle respond to this ongoing crisis. But even with the closure last summer of California's largest chain of almost 300 recycling centers that were owned by Replanet, CalRecycle has remained unresponsive. So again, as far as why are CRV redemption centers closing, there's an economic component that needs to be understood to further an understanding and to guide future decisions related to redemption centers. As previously noted, redemption centers depend upon the sale of the collected commodity material to recoup our cost. With the exception of a very small processing payment for glass or plastic, there's no additional funding which is provided by CalRecycle to support HWMA's program. So as an example, when a customer comes in to redeem 1 pound of aluminum containers, which is 29.4 cans, that's a CalRecycle provided number, they receive $1.65 for that pound of material. HWMA then takes that collected material and then we sell it to a commodity broker, and the current scrap value today is 40 cents per pound. At the beginning part of September, the cost was, what we were getting paid was 32 cents a pound. And I want to note that this payment does not cover the cost of that CRV payout, nor does it cover the cost of staffing, equipment, or shipping of this material to market. So to make up the difference, HWMA is subsidizing the Eureka Recycling Center to the tune of $673,000 annually. And that's not free money. That's money that we are covering on a fee placed on the solid waste to cover those fees. So $9.64 of every ton of material that is brought into HWMA is going in to subsidize the Eureka Recycling Center. So another way to look at this, so that's for the per pound, our net or loss by material at the ton type, if we get a ton of aluminum, we are making $4.28 a ton. Glass is a negative value material, and we lose $85.03 per ton. This also is the same thing for the peat plastic, oftentimes referred to as those plastic water bottles. And it's running in the red of $553. I'm going to back up to this slide. Maybe I'm not going to back up. So what I just wanted to note here is that if you were to redeem a pound of plastic containers, what we are receiving for those 22.8, we're going to pay you $1.28 a pound, and that scrap value that HWMA is receiving for that lower valued material is 8 cents a pound. So we're in the whole $1.20 a pound. And as touched on a bit ago, beverage manufacturers are increasingly shifting to this lower valued material, which further compounds the inability of recycling centers to recoup the cost of CRV payout, labor, equipment, and that freight to market cost. So the existing state of the CRV redemption is adversely affecting California residents and businesses. CalRecycle collects over $1.6 billion annually of consumer monies, and CalRecycle uses the collected monies to operate their programs, while recycling centers are paying consumers for their CRV containers, and then we recoup that payout through the sale of the recyclable products. We are encouraging local governments to consider sending letters to our state representatives, and we understand that your staff has prepared a letter for your consideration. And the HWMA board directed Chairman Sweeney to submit a letter to our state representatives, the governor, CSAC, RCRC, and the California League of Cities, addressing the need for legislation. Speaking frankly, this is an unsustainable program that is unfair to California residents who deserve to collect their deposit fee. Unless consumers are able to redeem these containers, the deposit fee becomes a tax, and it's an economic hardship to those who can least afford it. This is a state program which desperately requires a legislative fix. And with that, I am turning the next portion of the program over to Linda. And Linda, just make sure you say next.
I sure will. Thank you, Jill, for that. And before I go into my presentation about the curbside processing agreement, I do want to echo what Jill said, what the experience has been for Ecology as well in our decisions in not recertifying or decertifying the Fortuna transfer station and the Redway transfer station CRV buyback programs. The other concern that we had was because they are co-located with our other operations. We didn't want to put any of other employees' health at risk, and just really did not have. There were two things going on. We didn't have time to be able to plan for reopening safely, and the other thing is that there was this as an economic burden, you know, on an operation that does not have a contracted obligation to perform anything that's other than have recycling drop off. As you know, in 2018, Ecology entered into a 10-year agreement to process and market curbside collected recycling from as part of a HWMA contract. It was done for member agencies, and prior to that, Eureka's material was picked up at the curbside and transferred from the Hawthorne Street transfer station into trucks and sent to solid waste of Willits. As part of the processing agreement that we entered into, we sat down and we decided on a contract that would be able to would be transparent in showing our costs and our revenues from the materials we were collecting. And we came up with what is called a recycling processing fee, which is similar to, some of you know, as garbage tip fee that's at the transfer station. There is a cost for implementing this program, and it's renegotiated every year. This is and the fee is based on the cost of processing. So that's the employee's time, the lights and energy and all that goes into processing. the freight to market costs, and then we offset it by any kind of revenue that we can generate from the value of the material that at some point that we're able to sell on the commodity market, and any money that we're given from Cal Recycle as part of their CRV processing fees. I'll go more into that. So we report all that every year and come up with a recycling processing fee. What goes into what that rate looks like is basically based on the quantity of material, the markets, and the quality of the material. First, talking about the quantity of the material, the member agencies last year in our first reporting term contributed 12,624 tons of recycling that went through our system that we processed. We are trying to optimize our recycling processing facility because it is able to process about 21 to 22 tons, 22,000 tons per year. Currently, we're taking in another 4,500 tons from other areas. There'll be other areas in Humboldt County, Del Norte County, and Ashland, Oregon. Both of those two other outside of Humboldt County areas do not have recycling processing facilities and do want to participate in adding to our efficiencies. And we're soliciting for more tonnage from outside the system and looking for about another 4,000 tons so that we can further lower the processing costs to everyone. Next, please. So here's a comparison of the tonnages that we got in comparison to what was in the HWMA RFP response for proposal tonnages when we initially entered into the agreement. As you can see, we entered into the agreement thinking that we would get about 11,244 tons. It was based on what we knew at the time. It was the first year, it was difficult to nail down what the actual tonnages were. We were gathering a lot of information. Prior to this time, there was another collector in the city of Eureka, was Eel River Disposal, that we since acquired. It was also picking up recycling in the city of Eureka. So if you see the big variance there in the number of tons there, it was difficult to know exactly how much material that was being collected in the city of Eureka. We ended up with the 12,624 tons. And this happened all at the same time as a thing that was called the National Sword passed. Many recyclers or recycling processing places would send their recycling to China. That was the biggest destination for materials prior to 2018. There was a lot of garbage in that material. It said that in some of the reading is that about 30% of the material that was going into China was garbage. And basically what was happening is that country is being marginalized and having to take garbage from the United States and mixed in with the recycling and not paying for it. So they put out a notice in 2017 saying, you better straighten this out. We are putting you on notice that we are going to start banning some of your recycling coming into our country if you don't start meeting some of our contamination limits. And then 2018, which was about the time the recycling processing agreement happened, they started enforcing the contamination limit where there would be less than 0.5% contamination in most of the recycling. And what happened was it just basically closed all of the United States markets to recycling. And what that did to the commodity market is in the next slide as an example. This is what the impact on the price of mixed paper per ton that happened in the state of California. We went from a high of $105 per ton in February 2017 down to, in June 2018, $2.50 per ton. Now, mind you, in Humboldt County, it costs us probably about $1,600 per truckload to send paper out of the county. And when you're talking about having 22 tons on a truckload, you weren't giving very much money and not being able to recover your costs just to truck the material out. Next slide, please. Well, and then after China closed its doors, other countries started to file suit and said, well, we're not going to be the next destination for the United States trash. And so they started implementing similar guidelines as China did in the National Sword. In the meantime, people in the United States, some businesses in the United States started reopening some of their fiber processing plants here. That's for paper and cardboard here in the United States, and they're still opening. So as a result, prices for these materials are continued to be depressed. Next, please. You ask yourself, what is in the recycling in the member agency material? This is representative. This is an average of what the material looks like in all the member agencies that contribute to that 12,600 tons that comes in here annually by percentage. And you can see that the biggest portion of what's in there is fiber, which is OCC is just an industry term for old corrugated cardboard, and paper. That makes up 52.71%. The next largest component is garbage, unfortunately, and we're at 18.66% in that area there. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute and tell you about how that impacts what the recycling processing fee is. The next highest level there is glass and 15.08%. We all use that tonnage. Could you go back if it's possible?
Yeah, got it.
We all,
sorry about that.
That's okay. We use this tonnage information to report not only to the Waste Authority about what's in here, and we also break it down by jurisdiction, just exactly the same way. And this is how the Cal Recycle decides on how much they're going to be giving not only the Ecology processing facilities a recycling processing fee, but this is also how they decide what they pay for curbside programs. This is the information that we report to the state of California when they do a curbside payment, which they do to the city of Eureka directly. This is the information that they're using to make that payment. So let's go to the next one. This is the kind of contamination we see. I know this is a little bit severe, but it isn't uncommon to see big old chunks of wood coming up the sort line. And we do get guns and ammunition in there, and which can be a hazard to our employees. Next. We do find some fun stuff once in a while. Somebody threw a shoebox of money out one time and had $22,000 in it. The guy came looking for it. He had recently sold a pickup truck in Ashland, but this was kind of fun. It's not always bad, but it is contamination, and we stopped the line to find it. This is kind of like your typical day of what contamination of things that should not be in the recycling that we find. This is just from one day, August 28th of this year, of materials that we call wishful recycling that was put in there. Stuff like wire, frying pans, toasters, tents, all kinds of sinks, all kinds of things. This is a typical day. It's a problem. But the biggest problem is in the next slide. Juicy stuff. We get a lot of containers that still have, they're half full of either hazardous waste or just regular food items. These are the kind of things that once they go through the system, they spill, squish open. We don't catch everything on the front end, and it fouls the contamination as it goes through the system. So that 18.66% gets exponentially larger as a result of this stuff having contact with the good recycling that's in there. So could you go one more? So when COVID occurred, we weren't sure how that was going to impact our systems. We did know that a lot of the recycling receivers of the material that we were shipping out told us, hey, hold up, we don't even want your stuff until we can kind of assess it. Is it going to be possible for our employees to be able to stay safe during this time. So all of our contracts have this force majeure language in it, which is something that we can enforce. We could say, hey, we're not sure that we're going to be able to fulfill the requirements of our contracts as a result of some sort of a disaster or temporary operation interruption due to something like like a pandemic like we're dealing with now. So we sent those notifications out to all of the people for which we have contracts to let them know. And then we followed up by finding out what is it that we can actually do and not do. So initially we suspended the bulky item pickup program and until we could figure out a way of doing it safely, because often it takes 2 people in a truck to pick up, mattresses. It's a difficult job. And we also had some labor force strain. So obviously we had people that had to figure out things in their own families that we wanted to make allowances for. And, so you may have been hearing, it's difficult to get through on the telephone. Well, we're dealing with that by trying to deal with, our labor and trying to account for that. Our customer counts have decreased. It might interest you to know that since COVID, that we've had a decrease in 143 commercial accounts. They've either canceled or they have reduced their garbage service with Ecology in the city of Eureka. Conversely, that has not been seen in the residential areas because they're creating a lot more garbage. We've only had 5 residential accounts decrease due to COVID, and very few people have increased service. Only 7 residential accounts have increased as a result of COVID. I ran a tonnage report just to look at July 2019 versus 2020. And essentially, we're about at the same tonnage collected in the city of Eureka, even though we've reduced the number of customers. And we are seeing more contamination in the recycling in the residential areas. And I believe it's because people are having to make some hard choices and aren't able to make aren't able to be able to afford maybe increasing their garbage size, and instead are kind of sticking some of the extra materials into the recycling. Since the COVID, we have started putting out more information out on the cans, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I'll let you know that we've put out 310 notices, tagged 310 customers for contamination in the recycling and let them know what they were, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. Next, please.
So Linda, if I could interrupt real quick, I do know that we need to kind of wrap this up if we can.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I only have a couple of more slides.
Okay.
I just thought it'd be interesting to show you what the, let's fast forward it to the comparison of member agency contamination. The other slides are there for you to see later if you want to look at them to see, the contamination really is coming from member agencies by origin. We are currently at 23% contamination of incoming material. And when you see that, and you see the juicy stuff that's coming in, and I said earlier that there's an exponential increase in contamination to the materials that we can sell, we put on, we're looking at, next slide, please. That approximately the factor that we use for the member agency's contamination is actually 1.33%. So currently the Waste Authority is covering the cost up to 15% residual disposal costs for the recycling processing fee. And Ecology is covering is absorbing the cost of the difference. So there is a large problem with the contamination there that we may see in the future that may result in higher recycling processing fees. if we can't get it under control. Next, please. So the local Ecology messaging is that we're trying to send some new user information out there. We have a website that has whatbin.com where people can look up to see what bin is appropriate to go in, their materials go in. We have these oopsie tags that that was developed by Robin and Donna that are just wonderful. We're using them all over Humboldt County now, and those are the tags I said earlier. But remember, the main things that we need is to keep our recycling clean and dry, and make sure that the containers are empty, no bagged recycling, no hazardous waste, no loose paper bags, textiles and styrofoam, or wishful recycling. I will also tell you for stormwater, please take any loose bags like those plastic bags. We're getting a lot of them right now. Tie them in a knot, put them in your garbage, then that way they don't become airborne and in your stormwater. I'll end there. Oh, there's a lid that we did. Yeah. Any questions?
I had to find my mute button. That was very thorough. Does anybody have questions? Councilmember Castellano.
Thanks for the presentation. This is a quick question specifically about the CRV. And, you know, I've been in quite a few conversations about it, but I'm wondering if there are any movements through Cal Recycles or at the state level to, you know, rather than consumers pay the 5 cents, et cetera, to have the companies that are producing the items pay a tax, you know, for instance, like plastics, you know, which basically are often just become trash, or, you know, yeah, just a question around like, why is the consumer the one paying the tax?
I'll take that, Jill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there were 2 bills that were up for consideration from this SB 54 and 1080 that did exactly what you're talking about, was to do that.
And that was earlier this year.
Yeah, it didn't really deal with CRV, but it did do more with producer responsibility. They didn't make it. There is a ballot initiative that's coming up in 2022 that deals specifically with plastics that will help a lot, and it's going to be around having them pay that fee, and so that we can develop circular economies in the United States to be able to deal with these kind of materials, and hopefully that will encourage people not to make non-recyclable plastics.
I have a few questions about maybe the letter, but I'm really concerned about the businesses that were originally supposed to take these, and now people are being sent back to them, but they don't have the infrastructure, the manpower, the money. Wholesalers pay that CRV and then pass it on. It's not like they collect that and don't spend the money. And I'm really concerned about businesses not being able to handle this. So is the letter encouraging you to send this back to the businesses?
Your letter or the one by HWMA?
Well, the one that you're asking us to sign, the HWMA letter. What are you asking us to ask them for?
Right. So your staff has produced a letter. And so I would actually defer to your staff to address the specifics of the letter. And I don't believe that is one of the requests, but I could be wrong. I don't have it at my fingertips in front of me.
So Donna or Robin, do you know what was are we asking people to send recycling back to the businesses?
No, we are simply asking the state to address a broken system.
Okay, that is fair. And I think part of that is to say that that it's important that we're not putting additional burdens, especially since those are the folks who are also dealing with our food. So we're asking, you know, we don't want people to move from a waste, you know, kind of a waste area to the food area where they're now becoming, collectors of things. And I know Cal Recycle is sending people to stores, and that has gotten back to me.
Mayor Seaman, I do want to note that the concern by the grocers industry is one of the reasons why the governor issued his executive order that would relieve stores of that obligation. And I'm not talking about Humboldt County stores, I mean statewide, because a number of places, if you're down in Los Angeles and you go to Vaughn's, you could redeem your containers there because they oftentimes have reverse vending machines. So those first two executive orders was in large addressing concerns that were being expressed by the grocers industry, in addition to recycling centers. So in our case, our broker, which is Ming's, located in Sacramento, they didn't even accept material that was being sent down to them for several months. So even if we had kept our recycling center open, we didn't have a place to get it into market. So everybody sort of went into this suspension point because of the concerns around COVID and some of the early indications that it could exist on material surfaces for extended period of times.
So, and then that governor's order ended on August 31st.
21st, that's correct.
21st, yeah, because now Cal Recycle is sending them back out to the stores. So.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, did we have any public comment on this item? Assistant City Manager Powell?
No, Mayor, we did not have a request from anyone.
All right, so we are asking for a recommendation to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for this. Do we have any comments or a motion? Councilmember Messner?
I'll make the motion to have the mayor sign this. The letter is in our packet, so.
Oh, okay.
It's there for us. Just a note for that.
I don't have my full packet with me here. It's at the office, so sorry. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right. Can I have a vote, please?
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Messner?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Allison?
Yes.
Councilmember Burgell?
Aye.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you guys for your report. It's always frustrating to hear about how difficult it is to recycle, which is such an important thing. So we are going to move on to item D2. We have Economic Development Manager Swan Asbury to talk about the resilient Eureka window poetry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm going to do a quick presentation for you about a new window poem art project we started in an effort to beautify vacant buildings in Eureka. I want to start by recognizing our partners for this project. It's been a team effort, and that team includes Eureka Main Street, the Ink People, Eureka Poet Laureate David Holfer, Eddie Alexander, and Councilmember Leslie Castellano. I'd like to especially thank Charlotte McDonald from Eureka Main Street. She helped coordinate meetings with property owners and has really gone above and beyond. So there's two parts to this presentation. The first is the general topic of encouraging window art in Eureka, and the second is the specific way that the city is offering to facilitate window art and poetry. So starting with window art during COVID, if you search window art during COVID, thousands of pictures and videos will come up showing people doing all sorts of art projects in their windows. COVID is very socially isolating, and this is a safe way for people to express themselves and feel connected. So we're asking citizens and businesses to put something positive in their windows. It could be a sign, a window painting, your children's artwork, whatever you want, but it's a way to sprinkle bits of joy here and there for your neighbors and community to find during an especially difficult time. While asking citizens and businesses to do something positive in their windows, staff is offering to facilitate a specific window art project for property owners. For $250, we will coordinate an artist to come and put up a poem and paint a window for you. The artist is paid $100, the poet is paid $100, and the rest goes towards covering supplies and the ink people. To kick this program off, we have dedicated $800 to put up a handful of examples in our cultural district. Originally, when talking about this, it was in reaction to vacant storefronts, and while staff will be focused on vacant windows, this is something we'd be happy to do for any business. Overall, the heart of this project is to put artwork in windows in Eureka, either citizens and businesses putting it in their own windows or staff coordinating poems and paintings. Lastly, I'd like to encourage the use of the hashtag #ResilientEureka when creating or sharing window art. It adds cohesiveness to the project and is a way to connect all the windows on social media. It makes sharing these windows easy and is a feel-good hashtag to follow. And that's it for tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. We'll be putting out a press release in the morning and putting things on the website, and that's it.
All right, Councilmember Messner.
Sorry, I just had a quick question. You said there's a hashtag. What's the hashtag?
Resilient Eureka.
Resilient. So hashtag Resilient Eureka, and then that's what people will. Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I will ask Assistant City Manager Powell, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mayor, we did not have a request.
All right, and our recommendations just received the report. We have comments, Councilmember Burgell.
Well, I went driving around Old Town yesterday to see if I could find some of these, and I did find the one at Sassafras. What a great idea. Thank you so much, Councilmember Castellano, for, you know, putting this together along with you, Swan, and Charlotte, and everybody that's involved. I really love how during this COVID time, I think it was mentioned, it's been really rough for a lot of people being isolated and alone and not seeing beauty, not interacting. And so to have these things, just these wonderful moments in time that make a difference is really, it's really amazing. So I just, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing more.
Councilmember Arroyo, did you have a hand up before? No?
No, but I love this project. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Messner?
I guess I'll just comment too. I really appreciate it. I think art is super important, and just the ability to encourage people throughout, and that cohesiveness, because people are so isolated right now. So it's really important and good. So thank you very much.
This is a great project. I'm glad we're finally talking about it. Thank you, Councilmember Castellano. And I know that we've been talking about window art for years, back when I was on the Economic Development Commission. So it's a great, great thing to be doing and a great use of our space, I think, right now. So thank you very much. I think that's all. And we will move on next to a financial update. We were going to check in often because this is a economically tumultuous year. We wanted to get regular updates from Director Millar. Good to see you, Lane.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. Tonight's presentation is on sales tax. We will be looking at resident versus non-resident revenues. This is the first in a series of updates I'll give. Later on in November, I will give an update on the budget and our sales tax revenue for the first quarter of 2021. But for tonight, I have a relatively short presentation. I will begin with a sales tax overview, and then I will move into the resident versus non-resident analysis, which includes the assumptions behind the report, findings by economic segment, and then a conclusion to that report. So to begin with part one, this is just a quick sales tax overview because it is a hot topic. We will go over revenue projections for 2021. Where does the city's sales tax go? And then what are the current and proposed sales tax rates? So what you see right here are the different sales tax line items the city has. The total is of roughly 14 million for the fiscal year 2021. That revenue goes directly to the general fund and makes up over 50% of revenue in the general fund. The first item, Bradley Burns, is a 1% sales tax. This is embedded in that state rate of 7.25%. Most cities in California receive the Bradley Burns. In unincorporated areas, this goes to the counties. Measure D is a 0.25% sales tax. This was implemented in 2011 to replace the utility users tax, and it's about 7% of the revenue budget. Measure Q is a 0.5 cent sales tax, about 14% of the total budget, and this will expire at the end of 2021. When you're looking at the current tax rate in the city of Eureka, the total is 8.5%. Most of that goes to the state. A small portion goes to the county, and then an even smaller portion, about 0.25%, goes to a local transportation fund. As many of you are aware, we have a measure on the ballot in November. This is Measure H. As you see down here, this would replace Measure Q and would be a 1.25% sales tax. If this is successful, the city's rate will go to 9.25% beginning in 21-22. And if you're wondering how does that affect you at the register, so today, if you spent $100 in Eureka, you would pay a tax of $8.50. If the measure is successful, beginning in 21-22, you would pay $9.25. So an increase of about 75 cents. So that's all I have for this section. We will move on to part 2. This is the resident versus non-resident analysis. So this was an analysis or a report that was provided to the city by HDL Companies. This is a consulting firm that works with the city. They also work with the county and the city of Arcata. They help us forecast sales tax revenue. They audit tax returns, and they also give us more insight into the data. I've pulled out the most interesting parts of this report. Their methodology is sensitive. They didn't share it with me, so I'm not exactly sure how they came up with these ratios, but they seem pretty consistent with what we've been assuming the whole time. So first, we need to define resident versus non-resident. A resident is an individual, but also a business residing and located within city limits. Non-resident, pretty simple. It's individuals and businesses residing and located outside of city limits. This report focused on a specific geography that included, obviously, the city of Eureka, but also an area surrounding Eureka that included what would be a 30-minute drive from the center of Eureka. Within the city, here are their assumptions or their demographics. They stated that the city has a population of over 28,000 people. We have over 11,000 households. The average income of each household is about $60,000. We have over 22,000 employees in the city, and our daytime population is roughly 34,000 people. That's about a 20% increase from our regular population. When we look within that 30-minute drive time, the population increases to over 100,000 That's about 70% of the county's population. That includes 42,000 households, an average income of over 66,000, 82,000 employees, and a daytime population of over 115,000. The report focused on different economic segments. These segments are based on the type of business. I've listed them here based on their size, the smallest at the top and the largest at the bottom. As you can see with this pie chart, the three bottom categories make up about 75% of our revenue. So I'll begin with food and drugs. So what you see on the right is the ratio of resident versus non-resident spending. So in this category, 42% of the revenue is generated by individuals and businesses within Eureka, and 58% is generated from people coming into the city. We had a 38% higher average than the countywide average. And I'd like to note that when you go to the grocery store, only about 20 to 30% of those items are taxable. And when you go to the drugstore, you're going to pay tax on non-prescription drugs, but not prescription drugs. The next category are fuel and service stations. Unlike food and drug sales, the ratio is heavy on the resident side. The city's per capita sales are significantly higher than the countywide average, meaning that most of this economic activity is happening within Eureka. And about 32% of the revenue in this category comes from bulk fuel. So those are things like trucking companies or freight companies. So a lot of that does not have to do with individuals, but more on the business end. And then we have restaurants and hotels. It's not surprising that more than 50% of this revenue is generated from non-residents. And the city's per capita sales are almost double the countywide average. I would like to also note that this has nothing to do with TOT. Transient occupancy tax is based on rents and not tangible goods. The next category are autos and transportation. This category is also heavy on the resident side. It includes car sales, but also auto parts and accessories. When you look at Eureka in relation to other jurisdictions, we have a significant portion of businesses within this category. I do believe that we're heavy on the resident side because we do have we have some major employers within the city of Eureka, including the city, the county, the school district, as well as St. Joe's. And then we have business and construction, or building and industry. This is slightly higher on the resident side. Most of this revenue is due to sales between businesses. The city's per capita sales are about twice as much as the countywide average. And then the final category, general consumer goods. This makes up over a third of the sales tax revenue. As you can see, $6 out of 10 come from non-residents. That is not surprising. We know that people like to shop at Costco and Target and the Bayshore Mall. So those retail outlets are truly drawing in a lot of people from the outside. But a very surprising statistic is that our per capita sales are almost 3 times as much as the countywide average. So when you put all these together, you get an overall average. And based on their report, non-resident generated revenue makes up over 44% of our sales tax. We've assumed about 50% for a long time. After speaking with the consultants, he thought this was a relatively high figure, and he said that when we compare Eureka to the rest of California, we're in the top third of cities that generate a lot of their income from non-resident individuals or businesses. So this concludes my presentation tonight. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Does anybody have any questions? All right. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mayor, we do not.
All right, I'll bring it back for comments. We're just receiving the report today, so. Do we have comments? All right. Well, thank you very much, Lane. We're looking forward to more updates.
Thank you.
And now we are going to move on to City Manager's report, where we are going to get an update on the Syringe Exchange program and the direction that we gave at the last meeting. So Director Slattery, or City Manager Slattery.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll give a brief update and kind of hit the topics that were discussed, the last couple of agenda items that we had related to the SEP resolution and the letter for the California Department of Public Health related to Hatcher. Two of the things that came out of that was council wanted an update about mobile SEPs, pros and cons and instances of where they're used elsewhere, and also a mediation update between the city, Hatcher, and other stakeholders that are associated with the Syringe Exchange program. So on the first topic of mobile SEPs, I had conversations with Matt Curtis at the California Department of Public Health. I also had conversations with James Wilson, who is with the County of Plumas, who runs mobile SEP operations throughout the county. I also reached out to Michael Weiss, who operates the county's program, which has a mobile component to it, and have yet to hear back from him. But I did get good information from both Mr. Curtis and Mr. Wilson. They both are familiar with mobile SEPs. Mobile SEPs definitely have their pros and their cons. Some of the cons associated that they brought to my attention was that you typically don't get the full range of services. You can receive referrals and those type of things, but the kind of warm handoffs that could occur typically don't occur when you're doing a mobile SEP. But as far as the operation of the exchange program, whatever you are exchanging is still successful. One of the interesting things that I did hear from Mr. Wilson in the County of Plumas is he felt that for return clients that the mobile SEPs tend to work better than the brick and mortar. The brick and mortar tend to work better for first-time clients that may be utilizing their services. After these discussions, I've also had multiple discussions with Sarah. They said that Hatcher is definitely interested in being a part of the mediations, and we've had discussions about mobile SEPs, and I think that they've been fruitful and constructive, and hoping that the next part of this presentation will lead to more solutions in dealing with this. The mobile SEPs and the takeaways that I got from the conversations were that, if we were to do this, that we would want to supplement it with other services, whether that be some of our uplift component or some of our CSET component to help out with these mobile SEPs. So if there are an opportunity for warm handoffs, that we could provide that service to people that are utilizing the SEP service. Also, some of the conversations were that, there could be one of the mobile locations could be in a close proximity to the brick and mortar to still be able to provide those services, with it being in walking distance. They definitely did tell me that, reaching people where they're at is definitely a good way of going about this, and there definitely will be benefits to having a mobile SEP being operated to reach members of the community that are not in close proximity to the brick and mortar. As far as the mediation, I reached out to some local mediators and lawyers that are experienced in mediation. They didn't feel that it would be appropriate to use somebody local. They felt that there are too many ties to some of the stakeholders, and so they referred me to a mediation expert out of Reading. His name is Tom Andrews, and we had a long conversation. He's pretty well versed in our situation here. He did some research on that, and then he's also pretty well versed in California Department of Public Health regulations related to SEPs, and so we feel that that would be a good match for us. I did reach out to a lot of stakeholders. I feel that staff has reached out to a good representation of those stakeholders. One of the neighborhood groups members, Mark Tari, is interested in participating. Also, Tori Starr and Stacy Watkins from the Open Door Health Clinic are interested in participating. Obviously, Lasar, the executive director of Hatcher, they are interested in participating. A board member with Hatcher will also be represented as well. And then I also reached out to Head Start, and they are contemplating participating. I haven't got a definitive yet, but I'm hoping that that will be the case. If I can't get a hold of them, I'll also still continue to try and reach out with the county library. So I'm hoping that the county library will also participate as well. And then of course myself would participate in that mediation. And so I've told all of them in our discussions that we would be shooting for, late October, prior to November, to have these mediation, have these discussions. They all are on board with that, those that have responded. The intent would be to sit down, come to an agreement as to what would be acceptable for all parties, and come up with an ordinance that would make sure that we maintain local control, and that if we do have a lack of response as we have in the past, that we would have tools in order to address it. And so that would be the intent. And after we dealt with the mediation and came up to some resolution, staff will come back and present that at least a framework for a resolution and get some feedback, and then come back at meetings in thereafter and look at an introduction of an updated resolution related to SEPs. I did want to cover one other thing. One of the topics that's been discussed a lot is the distribution of meth pipes. The people that I have spoken to have felt that the update to the code in 2018 does cover that. The reasoning behind it is, and according to Mr. Wilson at Plymouth, they've done some preliminary research that it has been somewhat effective. That the idea being that for those that are that are injection users, that they giving them an option to go to smoking can reduce the chance of bloodborne pathogens, and if they can get them to go to smoking it as opposed to injecting it, that's the theory. And I have forwarded the information that was forwarded to me by Mr. Wilson to the city attorney to review, and I'll come back with a report on that. It's new information to me, at least, as to what CDPH's interpretation is of harm reduction materials, and it seems, in my reading, that this would potentially be covered, and that it also seems to reason with the idea of trying to get people to stop being injection users and potentially going to being ingesting it by smoking it. So that's all I have. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to.
Councilmember Arroyo.
I just wanted to note that we've all received updated reports to meet the current ordinance. Like past reports that were missing have now been completed and sent to us and to the city manager in accordance with our existing ordinance. So I just, since that's not something that currently is required to be shared in a public way, I mean, of course, it's available through the state, but I just wanted to note that that had happened in the time since our last meeting.
Yeah, I apologize. Lasara did forward initially the first 2 quarters of 2020, and the report that was provided to CDPH was provided to the city, and that was split up into 2 quarters. So that covered 2020, and then just today, or this morning, I believe, or maybe last evening, I don't know, I had a lot of emails. The 4 quarters of 2019 were sent to council as well as to myself.
And if community members wanted to review that information, would they find it on the state's website? I'm not sure if there's a way that people can get that.
They can find their annual reports that were given to them. If they wanted it broken down into quarters, they would have to contact the city, and they can feel free to contact me if they'd like to get those reports that are presented quarterly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Burgell?
Just a quick clarification. So the state decision will be happening October 8th. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, so we'll know more about that end as well. And I'm sorry, I missed when the mediation was going to be happening.
We're shooting for that. I'm trying to get as many stakeholders as possible, so I didn't know if we'd be able to meet the second meeting in October with some of the conflicts, and so we're shooting for the end of October right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? If not, thank you for your work in helping us to move this forward, and I appreciate that you're able to get the stakeholders together. It's a big step. So, anything else?
That'll do it. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Right on. Then we will close with our council reports, and I will start with Councilmember Castellano.
Okay, let's see. Continuing to be fairly busy. Been part of a kind of statewide advocacy campaign for the performing arts, specifically encouraging the governor and the GoBiz office to create guidelines for reopening that include the performing arts. And the arts in general is an industry that's been somewhat overlooked from an economic standpoint for recovery efforts. So I got to participate with Julie Baker, who's the director of the advocacy, the California Association of the Arts, on a meeting with 40 other kind of arts leaders from across the state, which it was good to be there because there wasn't really anyone else representing more rural communities and smaller communities. So it was nice to make sure that those perspectives were heard and part of the state planning around this. Let's see, continuing to host regional arts leadership meetings, participating in various boards and commissions, and also met with some community members and city staff to make sure we have plans for winter shelter needs, so that is moving forward. So, you know, the rainy season is coming, so it doesn't sneak up on us, and we make sure that everyone has a place to go.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Allison.
I'm busy, but nothing to report.
Councilmember Burgell.
So I attended the Pack Out Green Team Eureka cleanup last Saturday. It was so great to be out with our community again. I'll tell you, this COVID thing has been really a struggle. Come to find out, I may be an extrovert. I didn't realize that, but I really miss people a lot, a lot. So that was really great to be out with community and to just be out at all. I too have various committee meetings that I go to during this time. I also have been spending a lot of time watching the current forums of our new city council members, and I would really encourage people to take a look at those. I think it's really important to shape what our future is going to look like, to be informed and educated before you vote. I think that's critical. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that oh, I loved Good Neighbor Week, by the way. That was really fun. I appreciated everybody's videos. That was great. I just wanted to say that in this time of COVID, I still, I still would hope that people are wearing their masks, even though it's not comfortable, that we are social distancing and practicing all those things that work. That being said, being isolated has been insane. And if you're having crazy feelings and that type of thing, you don't have to do it by yourself. There's always somebody that you can talk to. The suicide awareness hotline number is on my council page and my personal page, and I'll give it right now. It's 1-800-273-8255. Just keep that in mind. You're not alone. We're all going through this together, and we'll get through it together. Thanks.
Councilmember Messner.
Thank you. Actually, thank you, Councilmember Bergel, for that, because this is Mental Health Awareness Week this week. So it's October 4th through 10th. And so it is really important that, that we are taking care of our mental health. And these COVID restrictions really do create a lot of extra challenges for people's mental health. So definitely reach out when you need to, and maybe even before you need to, definitely reach out. Connection is critical to the health of human beings. So don't be isolated. You can be isolated physically if you need to be, but don't be isolated in communications. So secondly, there's a support firefighters. Our local firefighters at Ruth, they're working around the clock. They're actually not leaving that site. They're eating and just sleeping right there because they're just trying to get it out. Hopefully the rain this week will help, but there is a list of things that can be collected. We're collecting them at Face Center in Eureka. And there's a list on my page, at the Face Center page, and I we'll forward that to Pam Powell so she can also put that up. And there's quite a bit of things that they need. They have actually just today, we sent some stuff up at one, a huge amount of things, and we're sending another batch tomorrow because they have increased their firefighters. They had 87 as of yesterday, but they just sent a whole bunch more up today. So just I'd really appreciate all the help for that. It would be really helpful to just support our local firemen and firefighters. So there's also this week, beginning tomorrow, we have the League of California Cities conference, and there are a number of things happening, and we would have all been gone down in Long Beach, but we're all online this year. So that is happening this week. And the other thing that's really, that I wanted to bring forward is Prop 20. It's something that the League has worked on this year. And actually it's been a couple years, but this is coming forward. And it's kind of a critical piece. It's time sensitive. It's the Reducing Crime and Keeping California Safe Act. And they're asking that cities would make resolutions in regard to this and make sure that people get the word out, and also that this gets taken care of. It actually takes care of a number of things that have been problematic from some of the previous propositions, and just kind of fixes some of the the unintended consequences. And so right now there's many crimes, violent crimes in California that actually impact our community, like domestic violence, date rape, sex trafficking of children, assault with a deadly weapon. These are all considered non-violent offenses right now. And so this is something that we need to address. And so I would love it if we could get some consensus on putting together this proposition or putting together a resolution. City manager has the information as well, has all of it. But if we could possibly put that on the next agenda, it would be great if someone else would like to second that, or we could get a consensus at least.
Yeah, a consensus. Everybody got like a thumbs up if we're okay with it. All right.
Awesome.
We'll put it on the next agenda.
Thank you so much. So that's it. That's it. That was my last thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Arroyo.
Great. Well, I serve as our representative to the Humboldt Transit Authority, and tomorrow we have our meeting at 9 a.m. and we'll be discussing a report about hydrogen buses and feasibility. The electric buses are wonderful, and there are a lot of perks to the electric bus, but sometimes they just don't have the range that's needed and the versatility that hydrogen buses could have. So a consultant with grant funding has done a study about that. So we'll be discussing the implications of that and figuring out how to move forward. I did a coastal cleanup with Kim Burgell. We got together at the end of September and participated in Coastal Cleanup Month. So big shout out to everyone who did some intentional extra cleaning up in September. I know that it was not possible to do a big blitz on one day to get everyone together in that format. So it was it was a encouraged framework to do small cleanups with small groups of people. So we cleaned up at the foot of Del Norte Street by the pier, Del Norte Street for our city manager. And it was productive and wonderful. And I really appreciated that Kim got some folks who were hanging out down there to participate too. So she really has a way with people, that extroversion again. So thank you for joining me on that, Councilmember Burgell. I was asked to participate in a recent panel that the Equity Alliance put on about the diversity of experiences as from public representatives who identify as people of color. And it was really productive and interesting conversation. And it really also encouraged people to really directly commit to ways that they will be more civically engaged. And so everyone who participated was able to pipe up with ways that they were feeling motivated to get civically engaged, trying to combat the sense of confusion that we're all sort of in. And you know, I think everyone's kind of tuckered out and spending more time at home, and it's a little easy to get less engaged. So that was wonderful. I'd like to encourage folks during Hispanic Heritage Month, which lasts through mid-October, to support a local Latino-owned business, a market, a restaurant, a retail establishment. Try to think of a business that you've been wanting to check out and haven't been able to, and stop by and support them. I think that's one really direct and hands-on way to support Latino-owned businesses in Eureka or beyond Eureka. You're allowed to go to Arcata if you have to. And lastly, I do try not to spring things on you all in this format, but I was feeling really moved actually after the Equity Alliance call and after some recent thinking about the sort of commitments that we all make and how we need to, as leaders, to step up in new and different ways. I was really feeling moved to ask that we consider adding a land acknowledgement to our agenda, a brief statement, just sharing as almost an educational move more than anything, but a way of honoring certainly the Wiyot tribe, indicating that we are on Wiyot land. Our agendas are set by ordinance, I think. Anyway, we would need to change some things to add that as a permanent element of our agenda. So I wanted to see if council members would be interested in having more information about that process brought back.
Thumbs up. Looks like we're all good.
Okay, thanks for letting me spring that on you, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week. That's all I have.
Excellent. And I just wanted to add, because I also I serve on the HCOG committee, and I'm on the ad hoc committee for the performance measures for climate change. So we'll be having our first meeting tomorrow to start discussing that, since I didn't mention it earlier. And the final thought as we leave, since everybody was talking, am I making weird noises? Oh, can you hear me now? Does it sound better?
Yeah, it was just a quick blip.
Okay. Just a quick thought that everybody was talking about, yes, continue to wear our masks. And I know it's been hard, but because we've been doing the hard work, we're now down in the yellow, which means that we have more opportunities to get out and visit more businesses. So the hard work that you're doing is paying off, and it will allow us all to have more freedom sooner. So thank you all for doing that. And with that, I will adjourn. Thank you very much.
Kim, oh, I just wanted to say that Esmeralda, well, the meeting's adjourned, but just to everybody else, Esmeralda's is serving the firefighters right now. So their hours have changed, but just when Natalie was